Here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of INFJs get mislabeled, not because something is wrong with them, but because their pattern recognition doesn't look normal. Let me explain. INFJs pick up microexpressions quickly, detect emotional shifts early, and process multiple layers of meaning at once. That can look like overthinking, anxiety, hypervigilance, but those are surface-level interpretations. What if what looks like anxiety is actually advanced pattern detection without structure? Because there's a difference between a broken system and a powerful system with no framework. We'll explore that map next. Most people think personality explains everything. Official materials describe type as a tool for understanding normal, healthy behavior, not diagnosing a condition. But there's a quiet conversation happening right now, one that doesn't show up in mainstream psychology, one that doesn't get talked about openly. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Quick note before we go further, the face and voice bringing you this video is Asil, Lisa backwards, my digital twin. But the research, the analysis, the scripting, and every conclusion in this video were done by human Lisa. So what you're getting here is digital delivery, but human thought. And if you're watching this within the first 24 hours and the hype button is there for you, press it. That helps more people find this conversation while the video is still fresh. Some INFJs are starting to ask a question they were never supposed to ask. What if this isn't just personality? What if what you've been calling intuition? What if what you've been calling depth? What if what you've been calling being different is actually something else entirely? Something deeper, something that's been mislabeled. That tension resonates because adult neurodevelopmental and anxiety presentations can overlap at the surface level, and today we're going to talk about it. Because if you've ever felt like you read people too fast, you process emotions too deeply, you get overwhelmed in ways you can't explain, then this conversation is going to feel uncomfortably accurate. In a flooded moment, try naming the source: people, noise, or uncertainty. Let's start with something simple. INFJs are rare, roughly 1 to 2% of the population, which means most schools, most workplaces, most social environments were not built for how your mind works. Now here's where it gets interesting. When someone behaves differently from the majority, we try to explain it. We label it, we categorize it. That's how humans create order. But what happens when the label doesn't fully fit? Is this just personality, or is something else happening underneath? Let's be clear, this is not a diagnosis conversation. This is a pattern conversation. There are overlaps that people don't talk about. Sensory overwhelm, social fatigue, deep internal processing, difficulty turning off. Now here's where people get confused. They see overlap and assume equivalence. But overlap is not identity. Network analyses still support them as separable constructs with different traits mapping more strongly to each. Many INFJs read emotional context and nuance deeply, whereas other cognitive profiles may prioritize structure over emotion or filter input in a different way. So the real question isn't, what am I? The real question is, how does my mind process information and why? Because once you understand that, everything changes. Instead of labels, look for what consistently triggers overload or clarity. We'll take that question into section 4, why your mind doesn't shut off when it gets quiet. Stay tuned. Why your mind stays active when everything gets quiet. Most people, silence equals rest. INFJs, silence equals activation. Because when external input drops, internal processing spikes. Neuroscience links quiet, wakeful rest to activity in the default network, a system involved in internally directed thought, reflection, and future planning. Your brain starts organizing emotional data, replaying conversations, and mapping outcomes. That's not dysfunction. That's unstructured cognition. Micro tip: before bed, spend 5 minutes writing a specific to-do list. Participants who did this fell asleep faster than those who wrote about completed tasks. When you don't understand it, you try to shut it down. And that's where exhaustion begins. Trying to suppress active cognition often backfires. Don't force silence first. Give your mind a container first. Once you understand the process, everything changes. The cost of not understanding your mind. When you misinterpret your own cognition, you fight your natural processing style, suppress your strengths, internalize confusion, and over time, that turns into burnout. Burnout is more than exhaustion. It is chronic stress that has not been successfully managed. Not because you're weak, but because you've been working against your own system. Strain rises when demands do not match your capabilities or needs. Audit your biggest mismatch this week. Is it pace, noise, or people load? So what happens if you stop fighting it? Remove one unnecessary source of friction today before you ask your brain for more output. Instead of asking, how do I stop thinking so much? You ask, how do I structure my thinking? This shift matches effective cognitive logic. We reduce worry by changing how thoughts are processed, not by demanding zero thoughts. INFJs need structured reflection, intentional processing time, and controlled input environments, not suppression, direction. External structure helps. Use writing, not willpower, as the first line of organization when your mind is carrying too much. The truth most people miss: depth is not the problem. Unstructured depth is. Unbounded repetition degrades cognitive efficiency. Use a simple frame. What happened? What matters? What is mine to do next? And once you understand that, you stop trying to become like everyone else. Focus on your own load profile. This isn't just personality, and it's also not something to fear, it's something to understand. The moment you understand your mind, you stop labeling it as a problem and start using it as an advantage. Self-understanding becomes design. Calmer environments, clearer boundaries, and deliberate recovery. You don't need more noise. You need better clarity. If you want deeper patterns and clearer frameworks, the link to Off the Algorithm is in the description. Keep a weekly pattern log, trigger interpretation recovery. Start designing your system today.